Hi, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. And I finally have my hair done, which I'm so happy about. So it no longer looks like a big mess, which is great. So today I'm doing a massive bumper wrap up because I never recorded my wrap up for June because I vlogged all of July, so I just spent all the time doing vlogs. So I've got lots of books to wrap up, so I'm going to try and do them as briefly as possible with two children hanging around. The next book that I read in June was Call Me By Your Name, which I read for Pride Month by Aciman. I've seen the film of this. The film absolutely blew me away, and I have to say the book did too. So we have two lead characters, have Elio and Oliver. So Elio is a young a teenage boy about 18, and he lives with his parents, and his dad is an academic at the university, and every summer they have a student from somewhere else in the world come and stay with them to help the dad with the research. And this year Oliver comes, and Elio falls for him, and he doesn't know if Oliver feels the same or not till probably about halfway through the book, when they start like a romance, and it turns into this like epic love story. And the ending is different to the book, and the ending is different to the film, and it like totally broke me, the ending. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about the film for a long time after I watched it, and I couldn't stop thinking about the book for a long time. Like, this was absolutely amazing. The writing's incredible. The beginning half is a bit on the slower side, and then it picks up more, but I literally, like, the end is just like, yeah, I didn't know what to read afterwards because it was so amazing. So I highly recommend that one. The next book that I read is this one, Running Like a Girl by Alexandra Heminsley. This is a memoir about Alexandra's running career. So she's a journalist, and she decided to get into running. She had no prior running experience, and it sort of goes from her times when she was just starting out to when she commits to running the London Marathon. And I think she runs it 3 times in the end. Her dad was a marathon runner, and so her dad she does a lot of sort of planning and learning from her dad, and I really, really enjoyed this book. It's very like frank, honest, funny, factual, tells you a lot of myths about running, and a lot of advice about running as well, but done in a really fun way. I started running in April for the first time ever, and so this was a perfect time for me to read this book. Thank you to my friend Henna who sent it to me, and I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was this one. So this is The Light Between Us by Lynne Jackson. Lynne Jackson is a medium, and this is her story about how her gifts of being a psychic medium came to her. So from her childhood, when she started having premonitions and knowing things about people and she didn't understand what was happening, all the way through to her present life where she's a very successful psychic medium. And this book has a very, like, it tells several sort of stories of people that she's read for, and it tells us sort of how close the people who've died are to us, and we don't realise how close they are, and how they leave us little signs and messages quite often, especially if we ask them to. And so this is also talks about the science behind what she does. So she is part of an organisation in the States which helps families who have lost children, and to get into this organisation she had to undergo like rigorous scientific testing to prove that she wasn't a fake. So she had to have readings with people who she'd never met before, and she had to be watched and recorded and be rated on her accuracy. And she would have readings, like she'd have to do like several stations where she'd have to go around and read for different people, and the people, I don't know, how did they did it like in their most sort of rigorous way they could, so that I think sometimes she couldn't even see the people, so she couldn't get any sort of cues from them. There was just this silence, and she had to do readings for them. And then she was sort of scored, and made sure that she was accurate in what she does. And you can just tell from the readings that she does that there's small details that she'll pick up that about stories that nobody knows apart from that person, and things that she's, I don't believe she's a fake for a second, but I know there'll be people out there who are skeptics who believe that she is. So it talks a lot about that. And I thought it was like, it made me cry several times about the death stories in here, but the actual underlying message of kind of this love and this light that connects us to people who have been in our lives and who we love very much, and how close by they are to us all the time was beautiful. And I gave this one, I think, like 4.5 stars, maybe 5 stars. So another really good book. Another one that I haven't got to hand because it was an audiobook, and that was Bloodchild by Octavia E. Butler. So this is a book of short stories and essays, and I decided to read it because I needed an Afrofuturism book for my Reading Women's Challenge, and this was really, really good. I gave it 5 stars again. So it's based on, they're all sci-fi stories, and that's really out of my comfort zone. So I was surprised how much I loved it. They focused on a variety of topics, and so did the essays. The really interesting thing is, in between each short story, Octavia E. Butler has written like a little paragraph about the underlying meaning of the story and what she felt when she was writing it, because she said, like, so often people misinterpret what other people mean in their writing, and so she really wanted to like make it clear what her stories were about. And also in her essays, it was just about her sort of perseverance as an author, and especially as a Black author. And I thought it was a phenomenal collection. I read Kindred by her already, and I will definitely be reading more of her work because it was fantastic. The next one I read was one that I started reading a while ago, well, a long time ago. Then I reread it all, and this is the last bit of the rereading for me. And this is Parenting Without Power Struggles by Susan Stiffelman. So this is a parenting book, which is quite obvious from the cover and the title. It's basically about how to remain calm and in control and not let the children be the ones who are in charge. There's like so many sections in like, celebrating the child you have, helping your child avoid anxiety and depression, helping a child forge strong bonds, definitely like being like the North Star and the guidance for the child that they have, that they desperately need. So it's got lots and lots of information in here. I don't think it's a book I can review like without doing like a full review just on this book, but I found it really helpful and I gave it 4 stars. So I think that was everything for June, and then now we'll move on to July. I'm going to spend ages talking about the books from July just because I've vlogged the month, so if you've watched the vlogs you'll have seen me talk about these anyway. The first book I read, I did quite a lot of talking about it on the vlog, so if you want to hear more about it you just need to watch the vlogs I did in July. And this is Natives, Race and Class in the Ruins of Empire by Akala, who is a British Black author and musician. And I didn't realise he's actually the brother of Miss Dynamite, the musician. So this book is quite an academic book, but a very insightful and interesting book, especially in my journey of educating myself more about race. And this is, so there's lots of chapters in here. So he was born the same year as me, so 1983. And so what he talks about growing up, I can kind of, the time frame is obviously the same time frame that I had, which is interesting. So he talks about, so he is biracial, so his mum's white. So he talks about what it was like to realise when he was about 5 that his mum was white and that he wasn't the same as his mum, because he hadn't even sort of realised that until he was 5. And then it talks about like slavery, Jamaica, the police, Nelson Mandela, Fidel Castro, KKK, and the British Empire, over, how that all fits together. And I learned a lot about his school experience and his experience with the police, and I was really like horrified by some of the things that happened to him in school, not really by the kids but by the teachers, like how racist some of the teachers were to him. And also in general, he presented evidence about how black children are more disadvantaged in schools, and how, like, just a small example, when papers are marked, exam papers, black children do better if their names have been removed from the papers, which obviously shows a bias in the marking depending on the child's name. So just like lots of things like that. It's very factual based. It's not like super hard to read, but you do have to really pay attention to it while you're reading it, because otherwise you'll kind of lose your thread. It's quite academic but very well referenced, and I thought it was an incredible book. If you want to learn more about like Britain and the history of race in Britain and the British Empire and all the abominable things that we've done as a British white nation, then this is a book for you. Right. The next, I needed something lighter after that, so I then read The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I read this when I was a kid, and I remember it really well, and I loved it just as much this time. So it follows Mary Lennox, who's brought up in colonial India, and when her parents die of cholera, she has to come back to the UK, and she moves into her uncle's house. It's this huge mansion in Yorkshire, and she thinks she's the only child there. She's quite selfish and rude and sullen, and she then really gets on with her servant Martha, and she really wants to meet Martha's family because she hears so much about them. And Martha has a brother called Dickon, who she becomes really good friends with. He is a sort of very much into nature and wildlife and gardening and things, so she gets really interested in those. And then she keeps hearing these crying sounds in the house, and she finds that she's actually got a cousin who's living in the house, who's being basically told for his whole life that he's too ill to get up and walk and everything. And it's about his sort of journey, realising that he can be healed by nature. And it's a really beautiful story, and I gave this one 5 stars too. I feel like I just keep saying 5 stars for everything, but I had a really good month. I then read this book, What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriarty. So this is a sort of contemporary fiction book about Alice, who is in her mid to late 30s, and she's at the gym. She has a fall in an aerobics class and she hits her head pretty hard. And then when she wakes up, she's lost 10 years of memory. She thinks that she's 10 years younger. She thinks that she's pregnant with her first child. She's happily married. She doesn't understand why she's in the gym because she hates the gym and she hates exercise. And then she starts to have to find out bits about don't touch, just to find out bits about her life and try and piece it all back together, and wonder if the decisions that she made in those 10 years were the right decisions. It's a big old book. It's easy to read. I only gave this one 2.5 stars because it was good, but it was way too long. It could have been like 150 pages shorter. It sort of, I just found it was like too drawn out for what it was. And so I do like Liane Moriarty. I will read more of her books. I've got 2 more of her books that I haven't read yet, but this one wasn't really for me. The next book I read was really good. This was 100 Acts of Minor Dissent by Mark Thomas. I've read quite a few of his books recently. He's a political journalist and stand-up comedian, and he said that this book is because obviously we know that silence is complicity, and he wanted to just do 100 acts over a year of dissent to show that he disagreed with certain things that happen currently. And some of these acts are really minor and some of them are quite big, and they all have a comedic element to them. So like just little things. He has some kind of stickers that you can buy on his website that you can put on different products. Like they trademarked these stickers. Let me see if I can find them here. Yeah. So like there's these stickers here, and you can stick them on different products. So for like, I think he put some photos. Yeah, so like these are photos that people have tweeted of brands that have had the stickers put on them. So there's some fairly minor things like that, but there's also things like a campaign for the living wage for workers of Curzon cinemas and recognising their trade union, which he was successful in. There's other funny ones like trying to get banned from Tesco's, he went into Harrods with a high visibility jacket on which said shoplifter trainer, and he took some people with him wearing high vis jackets saying trainee shoplifter. He has this theory that if you're wearing a high vis jacket, nobody questions what you do because they all think you're there on an official capacity, which is quite funny because several of the things he does, he just wears a high vis jacket and nobody pays any attention to what he's doing. So it's really, really good. I'd really recommend it. I read it in like a day. I love Mark Thomas. I'd highly recommend his stand-up shows if you get to see one, and his books. So we're nearly there, guys. We're nearly there. Bear with. The next one I read was a memoir, I Am by Maggie O'Farrell, and this is 17 Brushes with Death. So this tells her story not in a chronological order, but through her brushes with death, some of which are horrific, some of which are like near misses, 3 of which are terrifying, some of which are because she's put herself in a position which wasn't very sensible, like swimming in deep water or something like that, and some of them were entirely not her fault at all, but very scary. And I just thought her writing was amazing. I've never read her before, but she's one of the authors I've wanted to read for ages, and I thought that her writing was incredible. It was one of those perfect balances of being easy to read but beautifully written, and I'm absolutely going to read more of her works. I've got Hamnet, I've got what's the other one? This Must Be the Place and The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox. So I've got 3 of her other books that I haven't read yet. And yeah, this was great. If you want to read a really sort of quirky memoir that's beautifully written but easy to read, I flew through this. I read it in 2 days. I thought it was fantastic. I think I saw Jen Campbell recommend it first, and Charlie Brick was kind enough to send me her copy because she said she wasn't going to reread it and passed it on to me. And yeah, I loved it. Fantastic. Another 5-star. Okay, we have 2 more to go. So the final book that I read was The Private Lives of Mrs. Sharma by Ratika Kapur. This is another book for my Reading Women's Challenge for a book set in India. So this is set in India in 2011. This follows Mrs. Sharma, who is a woman who's in her late 30s. Her husband, she has a 15-year-old son. She lives with her in-laws, and her husband is working in Dubai to try and earn more money so they can have a better life and not be stuck in poverty. And she just meets a man on the train platform and he helps her with something, and they end up sort of striking up a friendship. And then she doesn't tell him that she's married with a kid, and then it builds into more than a friendship, and then something happens. And she talks a lot about like the expectations of her in India at the time, and of her in-laws, the expectations of her family and her society and her culture, and what she's doing and how she justifies what she's doing. Sometimes she's an unreliable narrator as well, which I think adds an extra twist to this. I thought the ending wasn't very strong. It was just a bit out of context with the rest of the book. It's all written as diary entries. And so I think I give this like a 3.5 stars, this one.